Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame fam, Fantasy Baseball players. We are wrapping up, I think, the final game. I think the final game is wrapped. Maybe there's like a couple games going on, but I think that one last game before the All-Star break, before we get a break from fantasy football, which kind of feel like I need. It's my first year playing fantasy baseball. I think I said a break from fantasy football. That shows you where my mind is at right now. First year playing fantasy baseball, and I'm not like opposed to this break here. I feel like okay, because fantasy baseball, this is fantasy. Okay, this is actually a good segue into what we're going to bring you today, which is strategy to help you in the second half and especially down the stretch to win the championship. Because fantasy baseball strategy is so different than fantasy football in the sense that, I mean, again, I know there's different leagues, but I think most people play in like a daily head-to-head category type league. You have to be checking daily if you really want to like be into it. You have to be looking at like who's on the waiver wire, who's hot. Are my guys playing today? Is he getting sat because it's a lefty? Is he getting sat just because he's played like 20 straight games? Like, you know what I mean? It's not like fantasy football where you can just kind of check in on Sunday morning and be like, who's in, who's out, and do whatever, waiver claims once a week. So definitely my brain is looking forward to the break this week to have like a few days where I don't have to look at my fantasy baseball lineup. But that doesn't mean you should relax. This is the time you can take advantage of some strategies heading into the second half and get a jump on your league mates. So let's talk about Pierre's top 3 strategies that you can use to dominate the second half of your fantasy league. And let's start with closers. Probably the tight end, in my opinion, the tight end of fantasy baseball, a position I want nothing to do with. So, what is your strategy with closers right now? Because not only do we have the second half coming up, we have the trade deadline, the MLB trade deadline going on or coming up. I know you've talked about this a couple times. So, what's your strategy heading into the second half? Are you targeting elite closers? Are you trying to trade your fringe closers? What are you trying to do here?
Well, I mean, we're going to get into those specific strategies. Obviously, y'all are watching this. You're ready to win, right? You want to win your fantasy league. But beyond these, just number one, strategy number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like top, none of it matters unless you follow this rule is don't give up. You just have to stick with it because I'm telling you, I know it's a long season. You just mentioned like with fantasy football, it's a weekly game, right? Like every week is a new chance. And like, okay, 17 times, going to go through it. Baseball's a daily game, and there's 162 games. Okay, so that's very overwhelming. And even as much as everybody loves baseball, you don't get tired of it. But the break is welcome for players and for fans, for everybody, right? Everybody likes that break. So this is not the time to be like, well, first half's over. Hey, what's happening in football? What's happening in training camp? I'm on 6th and 7th in the standings. Like, I guess I'll just keep setting my lineup. And I mean, look, why did you do all the research and the drafting and the waiver wire and all this for the first half of the season just to give up now, right? I'm just saying, like, there's no point. You might as well stick with it and don't think you're out of it. Trust me, the second half, there's still a long way to go. You can win if you do the right things. You just have to stick with it. Honestly, a lot of times the people who win their leagues, it's because they kept up with it and made moves and smart streamers, and they did what needed to be done to catch up in the second half, while the other guys, I'm in first place, I'll just coast, and then they fall behind. I'm telling you, I've seen it over and over again. Just sticking with it is half the battle. All right. Now that said, what can you do to help your team? You have to look carefully at the standings, look at your team needs. You know what you do need. We have maybe, hopefully, a surplus of. Right now, I've said it a couple times on videos, live streams. I'm going to keep saying it, especially this year more than ever. Look at your closer situation. If you're in a league that has saves, that uses saves, almost everybody wants saves because punting is a strategy, but a lot of people don't really do that, right? People want a closer they can depend on. This is the time that closers get dealt to contenders from non-contenders. So if I have a closer who's doing pretty well this year, who's on a team that is surely going to be selling, I'm going to be selling because that guy doesn't necessarily have a job as the closer on the team he goes to, because there are teams like the Dodgers, the Orioles, they want to just in case, right? Plan B, in case their guy falters, like Craig Kimbrell, the Orioles just blew a save today. I think Clay Holmes, the Yankees, just blew a save, right? Evan Phillips hasn't been as great lately. And so they'll have a guy who's waiting in line, or they just want a really good setup man, or they just need another lefty or whatever. So who am I trying to trade if I have right now to get what I get? Tanner Scott of the Marlins. We know the Marlins are selling, right? Annual tradition. Jose Alvarado, the Phillies, who I don't think is even technically the closer anymore because Jeff Hoffman has been better and has been getting saves. But if you have Alvarado, some people are still interested. I just tried an offer myself, selling Alvarado to somebody else, and it was accepted. Alvarado is still somebody that people want. Carlos Estevez, the Angels. Angels haven't announced it, but they're probably going to be selling off veterans, especially in the bullpen. And then he's been really good this year, racked up a ton of saves. But Kyle Finnegan in Washington, a lot of people think, well, they just traded Hunter Harvey. That's even better for Kyle Finnegan. Not necessarily. They'll probably trade Finnegan also, because why would they keep him if a contender is going to give them prospects? So I would say I would sell high on Finnegan and players like that.
All right, so there you go. Be looking to move some of those fringe closers while you can. But what about some players who weren't too good in the first half? Buy low, some potential buy low guys here. So give us some guys going into the second half that you think are great buy lows. I know you're going to drop your buy low win video on Wednesday. You'll probably talk about some of these guys. But who are some guys that have struggled in the first half that you think we're going to see bounce back in the second half that are going to help teams win championships if they either hold on to them or go out and acquire them?
Yeah, so all of these guys have at some point been on a buy low video, and they're still buy lows because they still have disappointed. But this is different because it's not just, oh, this guy has been struggling this week or even this month. It's now let's step back and look at, wow, this guy really had just a terrible first half. We've from the day the season started, these guys have not impressed. So I won't go too deep into it because I've talked repeatedly about Julio, right? Julio Rodriguez. I'm still buying. And hey, he's ending on a high note. Last couple of days been hot for whatever that's worth. So Julio still, I think Ozzy Albies has to get better. He typically performs strongly in the second half. So I think he's going to turn around. Again, I'm looking for veterans who have proven they can turn it around. Not a rookie who was good last year and isn't good this year, like a Corbin Carroll, right? Or somebody like that. Yandy Diaz, just like the whole Rays team, is really underachieved. I really think Yandy can do better. So he's a good buy low candidate. And Alex Bregman has been better lately, but I still feel like he's a good buy low. In fact, I just bought on him in a league. I think that he's somebody who will definitely warm up as the second half gets on, especially the Astros are going to be buyers. They might add some more punch to their lineup. So those are some guys I think I'm willing to take chances on because you can get them, I'd say, fairly cheap. And then also some players who could be dealt to better situations. Again, look at those obvious sellers, the Marlins again. Jazz Chisholm thought was untouchable. Talked about this last time, right? Apparently he is touchable and tradable. And so he goes basically anywhere else. That's an upgrade for him. Luis Robert, right? Anybody in the White Sox offense, basically. Tommy Pham, Andrew Vaughn, guys like that. They could go to better situations. This is a good time to buy them.
All right. And yeah, this is a strategy I think that works in like any fantasy sport. Go, because now, we're going to have this break here. And like you said in the beginning, teams are going to be able to look at their team and where they're at in the standings. And looking for those teams, like don't look at the guy who's in last place who's got no chance, right? Like look at those guys who are fighting for those playoff spots, fighting for the teams, and go see if they have some of these guys. They might be like, hey, I can't wait for this guy to turn it around. I can't hope, you know what I mean? I can't. We come out of the All-Star break and this guy turns it around. Like they need guys that can help now. So definitely a good strategy. And then I really like this one here. I really like this. I think this is a great strategy here. What do we do with injured players who may be on waiver wire? So maybe players who have been out all season and are going to come back, or maybe they hit the 60-day IL and the teams don't want to hold them. How do you handle injured players that potentially we could see them soon if they're out there on the waiver wire?
Yeah, and the bigger point here is these strategies, trying to make these maneuvers and these trades and buy and sell. It's not just for those who are behind or in the middle of the pack trying to climb up or down in the standings. If you're first place, second place, you feel like you're a strong contender, sitting back and doing nothing is the worst thing you could do. You have to be proactive. You have to get ahead of the game, and you should be trying to do things to still improve your team instead of letting everybody else improve their team. So again, I'm going to keep saying it. Doing nothing is going to lead you to losing your lead, most likely, if you are in first place. So this is a good time if you do have depth, right? If you're in top of the standings somewhere, then you probably have pretty deep bench, or you have maybe a couple players, a surplus at a position or something. This is where you can take a chance, do a 2-for-1, try to add quality instead of quantity, but also try to buy low on some of these injured players. All right, so the obvious one is Mike Trout. I'm not going to tell you that I'm personally going out to get Mike Trout, because not remotely surprised when he got hurt, and I wouldn't be remotely surprised if he gets hurt again or whatever. But still, Trout, obvious candidate here. Fernando Tatis, still going to be out a while, missing the All-Star game. He's going to be out a couple more weeks. It's going to be a while. Somebody who can't afford to sit back and wait for him, they're impatient. They're like, good, take my injured player. Give me players I can use now. Take advantage of that if you don't need those players, right? Or if Tatis is a significant upgrade to who you're giving up. Maybe you swap like a third outfielder type plus a pitcher you don't really need to get Tatis. And you're like, yeah, a couple of weeks, I get nothing out of that. But come playoff time or come the end of the season when you're making that final push, you'll be glad you had a guy like Tatis, right? Trout, obviously, pitchers like Yamamoto just announced he's going to be out until mid-August. He's on the 60-day IL, which really means nothing because he was not going to come back like real soon anyways. It's not really, he's been delayed. It's just this logistical move for them. But people will look at that news and say, oh, great, Yamamoto's, hurt even longer. I would be willing to wait on a guy like that. He was so good before he got hurt. Yu Darvish, there's a lot of uncertainty there. You could roll the dice with him. I just tried and almost successfully bought low on Kyle Tucker. I'm going to try it again. Kyle Tucker, also people getting impatient. Michael Harris, haven't heard anything about him. So people get nervous when they don't hear anything. It's just a hamstring. He'll be back. He's a guy who can help you. Starling Marte, pretty cheap buy. And Tristan Casas, who's been out forever, is eventually going to come back. But those are some of the guys I will be trying to go out and fish for if I'm ahead in standings and I can get a good deal on them.
All right, there you go. There's some strategies. Now, before we get to your questions, we got to talk about one more thing, one more big item, and maybe this could be filed under a strategy. What do you do if you picked up the natural, Rhys Hines? All this guy, okay, he actually looked human today, 0 for 4. But prior to today, batting .500, 5 home runs, 7 runs scored. This is in 6 games, by the way. 11 RBIs, .542 on-base percentage, a 1.409 slugging, almost a 2.0 OPS, 1.951, and 2 stolen bases, because why not? Why not? Just a 5-category stud since you picked him up. We're heading into the All-Star break. We know he's not going to do this all year. He could be good all year, but he's not going to be this good all year. Rhys Hines, are you just riding with him until the wheels fall off and he crashes back down to earth, or are you selling high?
Well, I said that a lot of people are glad for the break, and it's nice to have. Probably the only person that wouldn't apply to is Rhys Hines and Cincinnati Reds. Bad timing there, but look, I said this. First of all, don't let anybody who right now is going out and telling you we knew that Rhys Hines could do this, then don't believe anything they ever say again, because they're lying. The guy has true power, right? Yes, hitting home runs in bunches, yes, believe he could do this, but hitting the way he's been hitting right away, not really striking out that much. Look, there's going to come a time where he comes crashing down to earth hard, right? He's as hot as he's been. He's going to go through a cold slump, and that batting average is going to go from 400, whatever it is, down closer to 200. And then he'll have a hot streak, and then he'll have a cold streak, and, it's just how he's going to be. This is a slugger. This is a guy who had a strikeout rate above 30% every level in the minors, not just AAA, not just AA, right? Even in single A ball. So at some point, the pitchers are going to start to figure out we shouldn't just serve heat down the middle of the plate. So I'm selling high. I have Rhys Hines. I grabbed him in a couple leagues. Thankfully, I'm going to sell if I can. Not everybody's going to bite and go for it because they know, hey, it's this guy who's been on majors for 1 week. but this is the type of situation where you absolutely sell high.
All right, there you go. If you've been riding Reese Hines, if he's been carrying you this week, maybe let him finish the week out. Well, I don't know how all the leagues go, but if your league finishes next week, but yeah, definitely seems like a screaming sell high candidate. And this also seems like a great time to try Underdog Fantasy as usual, because right now, even though there are no baseball pick'ems for the next almost week because there's no games, there actually are baseball pick'ems because they're going to give you this Gunnar Henderson special. All he's got to do is hit one home run in the home run derby, and you win that pick. And look, they'll have other home run derby picks as well. So if you want to have some fun in the All-Star game, make some home run derby picks, make some All-Star picks. They will have pick'ems for you. Just make sure when you go at Underdog Fantasy, you join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only are you going to get this Gunnar Henderson special pick, they're going to give you another special pick, and it's different every day, so I don't know who it'll be. Depends on when you sign up, but you're going to get that special pick plus the Gunnar Henderson special pick, plus you're going to get up to $250 in bonus cash that you can use right away to make baseball picks. Or if, like me, your brain started to think about fantasy football, they got fantasy football drafts going on as well, and of course every other sport imaginable, even sports you didn't think were sports, or even newer sports, or maybe even heard of. So check it out, Underdog Fantasy. Just make sure you use promo code ENDGAME when you join to take advantage of those special picks and the bonus cash. All right, let's get to your questions. And as always, we're going to start with the super chats. Don't forget, everybody, if you want to jump to the front of the line, if you're impatient, if you just want to say thanks for the hard work, if you're just generous, you can always drop that super chat, and that will jump you to the front of the line, as Antoine always does. Although he was in the front of the line today, but still dropping the super chat. Thank you. So we just talked about Reese Hines. He destroyed him this week. Yep, nothing you can do about that. You either, look, in every league, one person picked up Reese Hines and nobody else did, and that's it. There's nothing you can do, right? Only one person got Reese Hines. It is what it is. Now, what about Corbin Carroll? Says he started to heat up. His average all the way up to 213. But over the last 10 games, he's gotten at least one hit in 8 of those games. He also has 3 home runs over the last 10 games. Is it time to buy into Corbin Carroll second half surge?
Probably not. Look, I'll just say this. The power is picking up because he's actually hitting home runs, meaning more than one. He's just had one. Now all of a sudden he's got a couple, but the average really isn't better in the month of July. It's not, and it's not like he's stealing a bunch of bases to go along with it. Like, he does have a decent amount of steals overall on the season, but a lot of those came early. But overall, we're not seeing the same guy. So I haven't been throwing him out as a buy low lately, because I don't see anything close to last year's version of Carroll for whatever reason. He obviously overachieved on his power last year anyways. But yeah, it's fine. Like, he's okay, but I'm not gonna be actively searching for him. I mean, you can still get him if you're buying dirt cheap. And look, somebody might be willing to sell dirt cheap at this point because they're just tired of him. So I can't say I see a big second half turnaround for him. I think maybe I'd probably just rather have resigns if that was the point, but maybe not. I will say I'm a little disappointed that I was able to pick up Reese Hines in our league, because I talked about him in 2 straight videos. Nobody picked him up, so I'm like, okay, I guess I have to get him, and I did.
Well, you know me, I'm fine with my lineup. I like to use all my waiver wire pickups on pitchers if I can. So
right.
I don't normally look at the hitters unless there's somebody out there like, hey, somebody dropped like some big name player. Okay, maybe I'll consider it. But other than that, I don't think about it too much for hitters. So Anthony, what's up? Thank you, Anthony. Says we made it to the break. Yes, we did. Says Chris, congrats on jumping in with both feet and getting it. Better than a lot of people have been doing it for years. Thank you. And look, you talked about this in the beginning about not giving up. I think after like 5 weeks, I know I was in dead last. I even had 1 week where I lost 0 to 10. That's right. I lost 0 to 10. I didn't win a single category. I'm now in 5th place. I haven't lost since like week 5, I think. I haven't lost a matchup since week 5, since I traded Julio, by the way, which everybody said was a bad trade, but I haven't lost since then. But we'll still see. Anyways, he says, might think Pierre was a teacher. Yes, Pierre definitely helped me with some strategy for sure, and got my feet wet and showed me how to do it for sure. But yeah, getting lucky helps. Getting lucky certainly helps, and and again, but just being active, I think, is the most important thing, and just paying attention really helps.
That's the best possible testimonial right there, because you keep up with it every day. I wasn't sure how into it you would get, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it out. But you've been like, you're telling me like, oh, he went 0 for 3 today with a strikeout. I'm like, I didn't know that. It's like, that just shows, right? If you follow it, you keep up with it, you stay on top of it and you make smart moves. That's right there. So much of it. And which is obviously why we do these things. But yeah, not everybody can just get it as quickly as you do. There's a reason you're the analyst.
Yeah, I also there's things I can apply from my years and years and years and years and years of fantasy experience. Right. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't know who any of these players are. I don't it took me a while to figure out what is it, how's it, but then you start to pick it up. But also the other thing is I really, 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 really hate to lose. So yeah. I'm gonna get a little obsessive about things just to try not to lose. So we'll see. We'll see what happens over the second half. All right, Eddie Buzz, what's up? Says, Pierre, you're my go-to. Oh, we're just getting all the praise today. Love it. After this comment, we're just gonna log off and just float high for the rest of the day, guys. Thanks. No, it says you're my go-to when it comes to great advice on free agent pickups. He's in an 18-team league, 13 hitters, 9 pitchers, 6 reserves, 504 players deep, which could only happen in fantasy baseball. That's the other thing. Imagine a league like this in fantasy football. You'd be having to roster punters and kick. You know what I mean? There's not even 504 fantasy relevant players. Says he appreciates all your advice. Thank you, Eddie. Thanks for being here. Yep, appreciate it. All right. Let's see. All right, not necessarily a question. I don't even know who is this. L. Butler? Who is L. Butler? He's on a tear.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lawrence. Okay. So somebody mentioned up here.
Lawrence Butler of the A's.
Yes. And Jahoni said something about get Brent Rooker. The A's are hot again on offense. Brent Rooker's getting traded, almost surely getting traded, maybe to the Phillies. It's not a bad thing at all for him. But Lawrence Butler now could benefit. He's going to get more playing time. But one thing I noticed, besides the fact he had a 3 home run game, that stands out. But he was hitting leadoff, which is interesting because early in the year he was hitting 9th. And, of course, early in the year, basically all year, he's been batting below 200 and has not looked good. But he's a guy who I'm like, I don't know. I don't buy into him. But he has very much underachieved on his expected numbers, which doesn't always mean anything, but I think he's a guy who could put it together quickly. So it's interesting to see that he had his power outburst and that they have him at the top of the lineup. So he's an interesting name possibly to stash. In fact, I'm going to put him on the second half waiver wire to scoop up in deeper leagues. He's available pretty much everywhere. So Eddie, your 18-team league, you could still probably go get Lawrence Butler, although maybe not after today, but you can go check.
Not after today, probably. But yeah, only 6% rostered on Yahoo.
Yeah.
It's definitely out there. All right, Rafael Juarez, what's up? Good to see you. He's in a 10-team category league. Wants to know, should he add Ryan Pepio and drop Gavin Stone, I assume, or maybe Gavin Williams? So maybe Gavin Williams. Probably Gavin Williams. Now, Gavin Williams was okay in this last start, but he only went 5 innings, and you know what disappointed me about Gavin Williams in the last start, even though he didn't get rocked or anything? Only 2 strikeouts. I know it happens, but come on, man. Come on.
Well, Gavin Stone had been really good early in the season, and now he's kind of faltered lately. Not sure there. He's still solid. Gavin Williams, I think he's just going to get better, right? He should get better. With Pepio and Gavin Williams, if that's who it is, it's pretty close here. I like both of them. Slightly different ways. I'd give probably the slight nod to Gavin Williams, but it's really close here. I'm not sure that this is a big move either side.
All right, and then he wants to know, should he drop Volpe to pick up Xander Bogaerts?
I don't know what's going on with Volpe. I mean, I want to say he's like a screaming buy low value right now. I don't know. I mean, he just looks lost. I mean, not just at the plate, but now obviously in the field too. Yankees fans were watching. It was pretty painful. I hate to drop Volpe because I really think he can bounce back in the second half. It's not like Bogarts was good before he got hurt. He was struggling, remember? I mean, there was a huge difference. If we flash back to the day where Xander Bogaerts got hurt and went on the IL, there's a huge gap between these guys. So I would probably still hang on to Volpe.
All right. Hang on to Volpe. Thank you for that. All right, Joseph. The good question here with the MLB trade deadline coming up. So first of all, says you guys are great. Thank you. More praise. We'll take it. Big question. Who is going to be the biggest name player that's going to be dealt at the trade deadline? So go ahead. The biggest name player outside of Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani. Oh, wait, they're not going to get traded?
They are probably not. I don't think that there's expected to be anyone who's a huge name that gets dealt, it's probably going to be on the pitching front if there's, a biggest name. Garrett Crochet, I don't know if you count him as a big name. I mean, he's definitely one of the better pitchers in the league right now. He's almost certainly going to get dealt, I think. Christian Walker's a pretty big name who should get dealt. There's probably, I can think of anybody offhand. Looking through my ideas here. I think those are the biggest names we could see dealt. It wouldn't shock me if the Cubs do something. I'm not sure if they will, but maybe they do something. But I think they still think that they're going to be in it, be contenders. So those are probably the biggest names on either side. I think that.
Jazz would be a pretty big name if he got traded, right?
Which one?
Jazz, your boy. Although I guess he wouldn't be your boy anymore if he got traded.
So this is why you don't buy jerseys with player names on them, right? Until after they're retired. Yeah, I'm still not convinced he's going to get traded. I know they're like dangling him out there. I'm not sure he will get traded. I guess he would be one of the bigger names if he got traded, but I'm not convinced. Luis Robert, I guess, would be considered one of the biggest names too.
All right, we will see. It's coming up about a couple weeks away. All right, back-to-back. Nate said he traded Brian Reynolds for Kyle Tucker, and since then, Brian Reynolds has been one of the best hitters in baseball. Never feels good when that happens, but look, it's a long season. Do you think Kyle Tucker will give him better value when he gets back?
Look, come September, pennant race, you're going to be glad you had Kyle Tucker. Right? Kyle Tucker should be back fairly soon. I know it's always frustrating, but Brian Reynolds is not, I don't think, going to have just a dominant second half. I would definitely take Tucker. So dealing Reynolds for Tucker right now, again, this is why I said what I said at the very beginning. Take the long view. Look at what you're going to want toward the end of the season, the playoffs, or if you don't have playoffs, just the final push there. Take the better player. Tucker's the better player. So I think you'll be okay.
All right. There you go. Don't feel bad. All right. Eddie with the question wants to know if they do trade, if the Nationals do trade Kyle Finnegan, who then becomes the closer?
Well, I was just digging into this last night, actually. So it's probably going to be, assuming he stays. Okay, they could trade multiple players in that bullpen. They already traded Harvey. They could trade Finnegan. They could trade Ortiz. And they could also trade Dylan Floro, who's a veteran setup man. But if not, then I think Floro, he did get some saves with the Marlins 2 years ago. He's mostly a setup guy, but he's just going to be the next in line. It's probably going to be him. So he's somebody I'm looking at as a stash in leagues where there are saves. Tanner Rainey had been the closer also for the Nats a couple of years ago, has some experience, but he's been horrible this year. Just bad. So I'm not going to pin my hopes on him. I think right now I would say it's probably Floro.
All right. There you go. Good question. Thank you. All right, Jahoni, what's up? He's got Luis Rengifo on the IL. Do you think the Angels trade him?
I don't think so. The Angels are weird, as you know. They don't rebuild when they should, and then they don't keep their players when they should. They kind of live in a opposite world. They still haven't declared that they're going to rebuild or be sellers this year. So I don't know why. So like they don't have to trade Rengifo. If I remember, he's the guy who's still under control for another year or two. Same thing with Taylor Ward. I mean, Taylor Ward could go, but the Angels don't have to trade him because he's not an impending free agent, if I remember. So I don't see Rengifo getting traded, if I had to guess.
All right. And then Jay Grizz with another one wants to know Tovar, Swanson, or Wynn. Is that Mason Wynn? Is there a different Wynn? Mason Wynn, I assume. Rest of the season, who you got between those three guys?
Well, it's funny because last live stream, people were asking about Tovar. Remember, like, how come you didn't put Tovar in the panic video? It's like, I know he's been miserable, but he'll be fine, right? Relative to expectations. And sure enough, just as soon as people, panicking, he's been hitting this whole past week. He's, on fire. So I like Tovar. I think he's got overall skill set. Dansby Swanson is finally starting to pick it up, but I don't know what's going on with that whole Cubs team. Just kind of off this year. I don't know if Council's just not taking to the team. They haven't taken to him, but I would pick Tovar.
All right. Tovar it is. And then back-to-back, Nate, another question. This was a player. This guy was on my team earlier in the year when I had nobody healthy because they were all hurt. Can Luis Garcia, the second baseman, for getting a lot of Nationals questions tonight on the Nationals, didn't know the Nationals were going to be such a hot team. Can second baseman Luis Garcia, of the Nationals, be on a championship team in a 12-team league, or would you be looking to upgrade for another second baseman?
Well, I'm going to say I hope so, because he's my second baseman in a 12-team league. You had him for a while in our league. I had him for a while in our league. He's kind of one of those fringe players, right? He's not a set and forget, but he's been pretty good for the most part. But like I talked about this not long ago, looking at second base overall, it's really thin for fantasy this year. There's been a couple of guys, big name players, who have been pretty much busts, right? Like Ozzy Albies. It's just not that deep. So I think that Garcia can be your second baseman. Is he your ideal starting second baseman? Not necessarily, but he's been hitting. He's got some power. He's a guy who's got talent. He just really didn't put together last year. This year he has. So I think you can get by with him.
All right, there you go. And look, if the rest of your team is good, you can get by with not everybody in your team has to be like a superstar. Right. That's another thing I'm finding with fantasy baseball versus like fantasy football. I don't know how many of you played fantasy football last year, but like if you didn't have Kyron Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, like Tyreek, like there's only maybe like 8 to 10 guys that, like, if you didn't have one of those guys, you probably weren't winning your championship last year, right? You needed at least one or two of those guys on your team. Fantasy baseball, it's like, just give me you don't need those guys. I mean, of course, it's league dependent. I mean, they help, but it's league dependent. So if the rest of your team is good, you'll be okay. Right. All right, Anthony with a question here. Do you think Merrill Kelly is worth stashing during the break? So report he threw 32 pitches in a bullpen session on Friday. So he's starting to throw a little bit. He's expected to tentatively expected to return early August. So are you stashing?
I think he's stash worthy in 12-team leagues. Yeah, this guy is a veteran, solid, coming off a solid season. Not the highest upside or anything like that, but also a guy you figure will not hurt you. So it's a pretty safe play. So yeah, I think you can stash him. I'm not going to drop anybody of great value to stash him. He's not like a Shane Baz where you're really excited about his upside. But still, yeah, I think you can stash him.
All right, then Anthony with another one. Back to Gavin Williams. Nick Pivetta for Gavin Williams. Would you swap out Nick Pivetta for Gavin Williams or just stay with Pivetta at this point? So I'm assuming Gavin Williams out on the waiver wire. Assuming he means like pick him up.
I think I'm going to stick with Pivetta just because I think the strikeout numbers will be better. For sure, Pavetta's kind of frustrating, right? Very up and down, up and down. But overall, he's got a solid repertoire. Um, it's not a clear cut for sure. Pavetta wins this, but if it's my team, I'd rather keep Pavetta.
All right, then one more from Anthony. Now, look, baseball is a weird game. There's no doubt about it. What sport has their draft in the middle of the season? Like, hey, everybody, don't stop focusing on the season, and now you go focus on all these prospects. What? The Major League Baseball draft. In fact, not only is it tonight, it's from now until the 16th. So I guess is it going on? It's already or started today. So it's literally just overlaps the All-Star game. It's like the All-Star game and the draft just go on at the same time. Like, what is this? Anyways, are you watching? I'm not going to watch the draft tonight. I don't even know who these guys are. Are you going to watch the draft tonight?
No, I don't watch the draft. What I do is I go back after the draft, either that night or next day, and I'll see who was drafted, and I'll read up on them a little bit more. So now that's not an event I watch, but I kind of keep up with it. But again, it's different because these guys, they get picked, and okay, you'll play for your team in a couple of years. So it's like, and so much changes. Some of these guys will get hurt and never make it to the majors. Some of them won't pan out. Some of them will get fast tracked. Some will switch teams. So yeah, I don't invest too heavily in it, but I always like to know who the first few players are, and I want to keep up with the first round. Yeah.
Why is the draft in the middle of the season?
That's the thing with baseball. A lot of their decisions are questionable as far as timing. I mean, it makes sense that they do it during the off time so that there's not this distraction of actual games. They do it once the break happens. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I don't know.
Look, I know baseball goes almost all year, but they have a much longer break after the World Series, like every other sport, right? Like the champ, like the NBA, like, hey, you're the champ, and then 2 days later, it's like the draft, right? Football, it's like a couple of weeks, like whatever, like a month later, like weird. But anyways, let's move on. All right.
Well, I think because we talk about tanking, right? Teams who tank and whatever. In football, there's only so many games, right? It's hard to really tank.
Right.
They don't really do that. In basketball, there's a lottery to prevent tanking. So in baseball, I think they don't want teams after the trade deadline to just go full tank mode. You know what I mean? So they're like, the draft is now.
All right. That actually makes some sense. Maybe you're onto something there. Actually makes some sense. All right. Super Dave with a question. Michael Garcia or Jimenez? Is that Andres Jimenez of the Guardians?
I'm guessing Andre Jimenez. I like Garcia still. Jimenez has just been fine. He's been okay. I like Garcia. I traded for him in one league just recently, our league, I think. I still feel like he's undervalued. So I'm going to go Garcia. Hey, it would be crazy, but it might possibly happen. We might see the Royals as buyers before the deadline. That would be something.
Well, speaking of the Royals being buyers, they did. They bought Hunter Harvey from the Nationals. So Billy Harris, what's up? Wants to know, does his value go up now that he's a Royal?
It should, because he was stuck as a setup guy there to Finnegan with Washington. He could actually get some saves now. MacArthur has been okay, but kind of shaky. And I don't think they gave up one of their top picks, this prospect. I think it was their number 2 overall prospect. Not that they have a great farm system, but still. They didn't give a player like that right now to get a guy like Harvey just to be used in like the 6th or 7th inning, right? So he isn't, being anointed the closer already. Like, he's got to earn that job, and they've got to use him as it. But I think there's a good chance he gets more saves, if not becoming the guy down the stretch. There's a reason they went out and got him.
Yeah, so the trade, they gave up their number 2 prospect, Caden Wallace, third baseman, and the number 39 pick in this year's draft, which is happening now.
This is significant.
Apparently. Yeah. All right. Good question there. Way to pay attention. All right, Bruce Dedrick Jr. What's up, Bruce? Good to see you. Good to have you here. I don't think we've seen you with a question, so welcome. If it's your first time, or if it's just your first time asking a question. It's got Jeffrey Springs and Justin Verlander on the IL. He's thinking about picking up Robbie Ray because he likes pitchers on the IL. So, who should he drop or trade to make room for all these IL pitchers? He's got Wheeler, Kirby, Houck, Bassett, Steele, Olson, who's been up and down, but up mostly lately. Gavin Williams, who we talked about a lot this week or today, and Nick Lodolo. So let's go. Let's get a third IL pitcher. Who are you dropping to pick him up to make room?
This is tough. Well, I would say you're deep in pitching. That's a good thing, right? This is good. If I had to drop somebody from this list to get Ray, I hate to drop Lodolo, but at the same time, he's the one that scares me the most. I actually got to watch a little bit of the Marlins-Reds game today because I'm in Miami. They're playing the Marlins game at Flanagan's. And I was watching Lodolo, ran into some trouble. They pulled him. This is what tends to happen. In fact, they even showed it, first couple times through the lineup, he's really good. And then once you get to the sixth inning or so, his third time through the lineup, that batting average jumps, which is why he doesn't always go deep into games. He's got great strikeout stuff, but he doesn't always get to do that. So he makes me a little nervous. Also the injury history. So I think you can drop Lodolo. And for Robbie Ray, yeah, I think I would.
All right, there you go. Drop Lodolo. Add to the ILs there. Why not? All right, MSS IMX. What's up? Again, don't think you've been on here, so welcome. Good to see you. What are your thoughts on Nico Horner? Are you selling or stashing or buying? Maybe you're buying.
Same thing with this whole Cubs lineup. It's just not clicking this year, not running as much. Horner's not running as much. I think he's a guy who really kind of overachieved last year. I mean, I expected a little step back. Didn't expect this big a step back. So I'm probably selling on him if I had him still. Like with Dansby Swanson, that's a little different. We've seen him consistently, for years, be a solid contributor, almost every category. Horner, not so much. He really got by a lot, just basically on his steals last year. And if he's not stealing bases in bunches, which he's not, I think you can sell him or even drop him.
All right, there you go. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. All right, Ganji. Ben Lively or Trevor Williams needs to drop one. Who you dropping?
I'm dropping Trevor Williams. He was solid, but way overachieving. It's really hard to see how he's getting by with the junk he throws these days. I mean, he's gonna be one of these days. Now that he's coming back off the injured list, he's gonna have one of those games just eats up your ERA in one outing. So, yeah. Not a buyer in Trevor Williams.
Are you a buyer in Jared Jones? Billy wants to know, is he worth stashing? Now, he had a rough patch there, but before his injury, only gave up 2 earned runs to the Rays in 7 innings, struck out 8, and then only gave up 1 earned run in 5 innings to the Cardinals, struck out 5, of course, left early with that injury. Are you stashing him? If he's out there on the waiver, somebody dropped him, are you picking him up and stashing him?
Well, I hate to do this to you, Billy, but he is one of the first players I'll talk about in tomorrow's video. So you're going to find out exactly what I think about Jared Jones. I actually already talked about this last week on our live stream here with Jared Jones. I've talked about him a lot. So the short answer is probably not.
All right. Probably not is the answer. But check out tomorrow's video. Find out for sure. All right, Jay Grizz with another one. What about Jacob deGrom? Is he worth stashing?
I would say if you are in that situation I talked about at the very beginning, if you're a front runner, if you're a contender for sure, and you can afford to stash him or buy low on him if somebody has already stashed him, why not? This doesn't hurt. I mean, the worst case scenario is exactly what we've seen from him all year. He doesn't pitch because he's hurt, right? And then you just drop him again. If he has a setback or if he goes out there and gets hurt again, It's possible. So as long as he doesn't eat up a valuable roster spot, yeah, I think DeGrom, this might be the time to start stashing him. It's a little soon. I mean, we're really not going to see him until, I would say, late August. But you can start thinking about it now.
Yeah, he did throw a 30-pitch bullpen session on Tuesday, but manager Bruce Bochy said he's still a ways away. So for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. A lot of talk, a lot of chatter in the comments. I like it. Some trying to get a league going here or something. All right, Cameron Puffer. What's up, Cameron? Again, don't recognize his name, so welcome if it's your first time. Okay, here we go. He's in 8th place of a 12-team league. He needs to do something. Looking to make a big splash in trades between Happ, Rooker, Winker, Carroll. Like, how would you utilize those 4, they said places, but I assume means pieces, to improve other batting positions, like catcher or third base?
I'm going to keep Rooker for now because I think his value goes up. And I feel like Happ is typically a little bit undervalued. But you can use him if somebody wants him. I'm going to sell Winker if possible. I'm going to, like I said, probably if you really want to upgrade, the name here that's going to get some interest from somebody is Carroll, because somebody will, buy low on him. Somebody will take a chance. He turns it around and whatever. He's still got that name value, right? So I'm definitely selling Winker because I feel like he could definitely move to another team, which doesn't guarantee everyday playing time. So I would say package Carroll and Winker to try to get yourself. Oh, when you're talking about second base, Ozzie Albies. I mean, I would take a chance on him having a very good second half as opposed to Corbin Carroll. I think I would feel better about him.
You said catcher or third base?
Oh, did you use third base? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I thought I saw second base. Third base. All right. Well, third base, it's, go back to Josh Young. You want to take a chance that he's going to be himself rest of the season when he comes back. You could. I feel like the buy low window on Austin Riley has kind of closed. He's putting together some decent games, showing some power. And I feel like his name value makes it probably too hard. I don't think anybody's giving up Riley, to get Corbin Carroll, unless they're really desperate for steals. Even then. So third base, I talked about Bregman earlier. I think you can still get Bregman pretty cheap. Look, in Yahoo, Yandy Diaz qualifies at third base still, right? He plays first base. You can get Yandy at third base. I wouldn't mind getting him. And then there's the ultimate roll of the dice. You could cross your fingers and hope Royce Lewis comes back and doesn't get hurt for more than a week. For that, maybe you could trade one of Rooker or Happ. If there's a guy who just wants somebody who's out there, right, every day. That's, again, you're in 8th place. Maybe you need to take that chance. But I would at least wait for some indication that Royce Lewis is going to be back, at least like within a week or so, before I do that trade.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Cameron. Good luck to you. You're still in this. You're definitely still in this. All right, JC said he can pick up Rhys Hines. He's still somehow available, but he's got to drop one of Jonathan India, Josh Lowe, Spencer Horwitz, Brooks Lee, or Ryan O'Hearn. Are you dropping any of them for Rhys Hines? And if so, which one?
You have to drop somebody to get Rhys Hines, because why has nobody picked up Rhys Hines yet? What else does he need to do? If I had to pick one of those guys to drop, it's going to be probably O'Hearn or Horwitz. Either way. Horowitz is fine, but again, I'm not flipping for his upside necessarily. I come to think of it, let's go Horowitz. Let's drop Horowitz to get Hines.
All right. Drop Horowitz, get Hines. Yeah, you gotta get Hines. Like, how can this guy not be 100% rostered yet? I can only assume there are a lot of leagues out there where, like, maybe very shallow, like 6-8 team leagues or something like that, or like there's just no one's even active in that league anymore. Like the league isn't like no one's even checking their lineups or anything. No one's even playing anymore.
Maybe.
All right, Tom Dieters wants to know: do you have any interest in not IA Addersum, Ian Anderson?
No, Ian Anderson, so many injuries and very inconsistent even when he wasn't injured. But man, Ian Anderson, I mean, unless you're like a Braves fan who remembers him from back in his minor league days, yeah, there's not many people I don't think who are too optimistic about Ian Anderson long term. I know he's looked better lately, so that's fine. I might give him the benefit of the doubt, but for fantasy, no, I need to see a lot more. So
all right. Great filibuster. Welcome again. Another we got a lot of new faces today, or I guess I should say a lot of new screen names today. Welcome. He's at Yahoo 12-team prize pool league. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you know. But anyways, interesting question here. A guy I've actually had in my IL spot all year because I don't need the IL spot, so he's been sitting there. Will Estuary Ruiz have value when, if he returns?
Another name I'm getting ready to talk about during the break. Good, smart stash. We have no idea what the future holds for him or any Oakland A at this point. But look, if Rooker gets traded, that opens up a spot. Any other of their pieces, not that they have many offensive players worth much to other teams, but any other way, he could easily see the spot open up. They have no reason not to play him. Doesn't mean they will, but yeah. Ruiz has upside. We know he's got blazing speed. That alone gives him value. So, yes, smart stash.
All right, and then Eddie with a trade question. We like these. All right, would you offer Josh Young and Kobe Mayo for Alex Bregman in, of course, an 18-team league?
Okay, so if you're in a deep league, like an only league or an 18-team league or something like that, I mean, playing time is so crucial. Did not say that this was a keeper league, right? Didn't say. So if this is not a keeper of any sort, give me Bregman. Dude plays every day. I feel like I said, I think he's just going to do better in the second half. Young, it's still very risky. Mayo, we don't know for sure he's coming up, if he's going to stick. I mean, in an 18-team league like this, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take Bregman.
All right, go do it then. And then Kuzgi, again, another new name. Welcome. Wants to know: are you selling high on Francisco Lindor or his teammate Brandon Nimmo?
I don't feel like either guy's a sell high. And Chris, as somebody who's had Francisco Lindor, I know you don't feel like he's been a sell high all year. He's kind of underachieved, right?
Yeah, he's been better. He's been better lately, but I don't feel like Lindor is definitely not untouchable. Like Lindor is not a guy. If somebody gave me an offer that was decent, I would have no problem moving on from Lindor. The only tough thing about moving Lindor is he's a shortstop, and it doesn't seem to be like a lot of shortstops on the waiver wire. Like that's the one position when he's out, I don't have anybody to put it. I'm like, I don't have a shortstop.
Yeah, it's tough to fill with somebody who can replace that value. But again, based on expectations, draft stock, all that, Lindor, I don't see him as a sell high. And he is definitely a player who does better in the second half. So if anything, I feel like he's more of a buy low. And Nimmo, the same thing. I feel like he's more of a buy low because he has been, until just a couple of weeks ago, I feel like I talked about this back in maybe late May, early June. He was one of the biggest underachievers. In fact, at one point, he was the biggest underachiever, the biggest discrepancy between expected batting average and actual batting average. He was like 70 points under, something insane. And his slugging too. So he's picked it up now lately, but he's still kind of been disappointing relative to expectations. So the short, long answer to that is no. I don't think either of those are sell highs.
All right, just hold on to him. Actually, I had a chance. Like I think Brandon Nimmo and Nick Castellanos were on our waiver wire when they were both like doing nothing. Yeah. And I wanted to pick up Nimmo, but I was like, man, I don't want to have too many Mets. So I picked up Castellanos. I wish I had picked up Nimmo, honestly. Castellanos has been okay, but Nimmo, I think, has been better. All right, Uwe 2K. Would you drop Ha-Sung Kim? I'm not sure I pronounced that right. For Angel Martinez or Angel Martinez or
no, and I talked
Colt
about
Keith
this.
in a points league.
Or Colt Keith. Well, okay, Martinez I talked about on the waiver wire. I mean, he's been playing, he's been hitting, but just for average, like I said, the home runs aren't going to be there. The speed isn't there. If he was stealing bases, okay, that'd be different. Kim steals bases, right? Kim is very up and down. But I wouldn't drop him for Martinez. Keith is different. Keith is now showing some power. Keith is hitting. I hate to drop Ha-Sung Kim, though. I don't think he's a player as disappointing as you might feel in his numbers on the season so far that I want to drop for Colt Keith, unless it's a more shallow league. So probably not.
All right. Just go ahead and hold there. And then Great Filibuster saying just found the channel. Loves it. Loves the content. Thank you. Welcome.
Awesome.
Glad you caught the live stream. All right. I'm still looking for our next. All right. Tom Detmers with another one. So let's go not so deep. Do you have any confidence in Tommy Edman?
Dude, what happened to Tommy Edman? That was just like a wrist thing. He's been out all season. I don't know why it's taken this long. No, I have zero confidence that he's going to be healthy at any point this year because it should not have taken this long. I haven't heard any positive reports lately. Maybe something came out that I don't know about, but I'm not stashing him. I don't really feel like being in that Cardinals offense really means much anymore anyways. I'm really curious to see what the Cardinals do, if anything, before the deadline. But I don't have any confidence in him anymore.
Well, this was Thursday. He was scratched from his rehab game on Thursday with general soreness after Wednesday, which was the first day he had played the field since the beginning of his rehab assignment. So not sure it's a setback, but yeah, like this is the guy that my team of injured players was drafted on my team, and I dropped him a long time ago. I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce. Another one wants to know, when Tristan Casas eventually finally comes back, who are you dropping to make room for him? Ryan Mountcastle, Andy Pajas, or Noelvi Marte?
That's tough. I will say I'm not dropping Marte. You know, I'm big on him. Not big enough that I wouldn't trade him to a competitor in my league if I were getting a great player back, such as let me check. Who was it? Oh, yeah, Corey Seager. Like hypothetically, if I were, But besides that, I did call Mountcastle a buy low. I think he still has solid value, whether he sticks to the Orioles or goes somewhere else. You just got it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess Pajas would be the guy I would drop. And I would because I definitely want to keep Casas. I mean, he's a guy you need. So I'm not dropping Marte. Mountcastle, Pajas is close, but I think I would keep Mountcastle for now.
All right, and then Ganji, not sure. Who wants to know, who are you keeping here? Or who do you prefer rest of the season? Heimer, I'm assuming, is that Heimer Candelario? Colt Keith or Joey Ortiz? Which is weird because isn't Joey Ortiz and Colt Keith, aren't they second baseman? I don't think Candelario qualifies at second base. So I'm not sure who.
Well, actually,
maybe it is. Maybe
I think if I'm correct on Yahoo, all of these guys qualify at third base too.
Okay. I did not know that.
Candelario is first baseman who also, because he wasn't third base and moved to first base. He plays both. Keith plays second and third. Ortiz plays second and third. So
right, there we go. Makes sense.
This is close. I would say Candelario if he continues to hit. And look, you got to feel much better about the Reds' offense now. I'm going to give the slight edge to Candelario. And I would barely put Keith second. That's my call for now.
All right, and then this is looking ahead. Dodgers are in course for the fantasy playoffs, so
There you go.
Guess, yeah.
That's
Put the
looking
Dodgers
ahead.
bump Dodgers players up a little bit.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too, though. Dodgers are one of those teams you should be naturally assuming you're going to get more value from in the second half because they're buyers, they're contenders. And then the other teams who, whether they call it tank or whatever, I mean, some teams have been tanking since opening day, right? Those teams are going to get worse. The Marlins, the A's, the Rockies, those teams are going to be worse. So that means even the good players in those lineups, they take a step back because of counting stats and vice versa. So you have to think about those things. I mean, you always want players, you're always going to prefer the player in the better offense, right? Just naturally. But that doubles now for the second half of the season. Okay, maybe not doubles, but
a little more weight to it.
All
right, Alberto. What's up, Alberto? All right. What do you think he can get for Noelvi Marte? He's been okay since he came back. Obviously no Reese Hines or anything, but he's been okay. I know you're still bullish on him though. So what do you think you can get from right now? He's in the no strikeout league for batters. What does that mean? Like he doesn't get penalized for strikeouts?
Yeah, I think it's a points league, but they don't penalize for strikeouts, which is nice.
Nice.
That's good for Marte, but still, I mean, what could you get?
Don't get me on the fantasy. Why is there any category in any fantasy sport? I don't care if it's football that loses you points. This is fantasy. It's supposed to be fun. You should only be gaining points. Like it's no fun. You know what I mean? It's no fun when like your defense gives up a touchdown and you lose 6 points, or your running back fumbles and you lose 2 points, or your quarterback doesn't. Like it's fantasy. Everything should just accumulate points. But anyways,
it's all rant for another, right? We got to balance it out. You get a point for a walk, you should lose a point for a strikeout. You know,
nah. It's only positive here. It's all positive. It's all like I don't want to look at my lineup and see my points go down. I don't want to open my app and see my points go down.
Oh,
what is this?
This is true. All right.
Anyways,
so look, for Marte, you're probably not getting much because he's been bad. I mean, he had one good game basically, and he hit one home run in another game. But if you have Marte, don't sell him now because you're basically selling at his lowest point. So if you're saying what can I get for him, I want to sell him, I'm just going to say don't sell him. Just don't, because you're probably not getting anything nearly comparable to what he could be worth.
Yeah, I still like we do have a trade on the table. I guess I should say there's an offer on the table.
There's an offer.
And Noel V. Marte is part of that offer, and I'm on the fence because I do worry that because he has hit the ball hard. It's not like he's making, chintzy contact. So I do worry that like I'm going to trade him away, and then when he finally works the rust off, he's going to have like the last 2 months of the season, he's going to like go off, and I'm going to kick myself. So we'll see.
I mean, this is one of those that we truly don't know because we have not seen Noelvi Marte in the majors for an extended time. He had a short stint at the end of last season where he was really good, but it was a really small sample. And then he missed half of the season, not because of a minor injury, but because of PEDs.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we going to see? Is this the real Noelvi Marte, or is he just rusty for missing time? I honestly can't say I know, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to bet on upside if I can.
See, that's my thing. That's how I feel too. I'm going to always bet on the upside, and I'm very scared to trade away that upside.
Right.
Yeah, very terrifying. All right, back-to-back Nate. So maybe one of the biggest busts in fantasy baseball. Bobby Miller of the Dodgers looked completely lost in his last start, and now they sent him down. So, do you have any hope for this guy? If you have an NA spot and you're at the top of the standings, which is what back Nate is saying here, are you saying, fine, I'll put him in my NA spot and hope?
Well, it's also a perfect way to lead to watch tomorrow's video. Bobby Miller is, I think, the first name I'm going to talk about
All right.
in tomorrow's video, which leave you in suspense. It's going to be a little different. It's like a panic video, but with a twist. So, look, I can't say 100% universally you have to hold, you have to drop, or you have to whatever. It really depends on your league and your situation. I mean, in any league, if you have an empty spot for him, an NA spot, right, or a guy who's hurt, you have an empty IL spot, it doesn't hurt. Why not stash him? But if you're replacing a valuable player, in that spot for him, then maybe it's not worth it. So it really does depend on your situation. But let's just say with Miller, I'm not optimistic.
Not optimistic. I would somebody had dropped him in our league. I was like, I'll take a chance. And then I was like, I wish I didn't take a chance on this guy. So, yeah.
Right.
All right. How the mighty have fallen. Just last week, there was rumblings that Jake Irvin should be in the All-Star game. One of the best surprises. And then he went out and promptly gave up. Let's see. What did he do? He gave up. He gave up I don't even know how many earned runs. Went 4 innings against the Brewers with a 13.50 ERA. Now, that was today, a 13.50 ERA and a 3.0 whip with only 3 strikeouts. The game before that, 6 innings, only 2 strikeouts with a 9 ERA and a 1.83 whip. So what do we do? What do we do? And are we worried?
I mean, there's always reason to worry when a guy gets rocked in back-to-back starts. And this is not somebody who's been there, done that. Oh, he'll be fine. We don't know that. Jake Irvin was not on the radar till this year. And so, again, just when it looked like we could trust him, just when I said, okay, he just needs to be added, not just streamed. And you really wish you didn't have him on the roster this week. But sometimes we see this where guys limp into the break, right? They don't end on a strong note. They kind of just, the coast or whatever happened. I don't know why, but I think he'll be okay. I'm not saying I'm giving up on him after 2 bad starts because he had been so good before then, but I can't say I'm not worried either. So he's very much back on the fence now, right? You can stream him, but he's not a must hold.
Yep, unfortunately, thought we'd found a gem there. But look, you never know. He could bounce back. All right, Anthony wants to know, do you think Reynaldo Lopez is hitting the wall, considering he hasn't thrown this many pitches in a long time?
I thought he was going to hit the wall already by now. I will just say this, and I know I've said this for a while, and it hasn't happened yet, but it could. He is vastly overachieving, right, his expected numbers. And maybe he'll continue to do that, but again, I feel like there's no way he's going to finish the season with the ERA he has now. So I still think he's a good sell high. I really do.
All right. There you go. Thanks, Anthony. All right, Cameron. Speaking of re-signs, he got offered re-signs and Will Smith for Trey Turner.
No.
Definitely no. Okay. Should he counter? What about countering with Carroll and Winker, I guess, for Turner? Or sub Winker out with Kim Rooker or Jose Miranda, again, I guess, for Turner. Are you doing any of these deals for Trey Turner, or are you just holding Trey Turner?
I'm holding Trey Turner. If you're talking about getting Carroll and Winker instead of Hines and Smith, no, I wouldn't do that. I would rather have Trey Turner. Sub Winker, no. Look, out of all that, 2 for 1, 3 for, just give me Trey Turner. I want Trey Turner.
All right, just keep Trey Turner there. Don't do it.
Yes.
All right. Not sure. Okay. Lunden, apologies. I'm sure I did not pronounce that right, but welcome. Not sure if you got a question on this guy yet. I don't think so, but where do we see Luis Ortiz fitting in second half of the season?
Yeah, Ortiz, somebody asked about him last time. I was like, he's fine. I mean, doesn't get me too jacked up, but I think he's streamable. That's what I think he'll be. He'll have a spot if he continues to pitch solid, which he's been solid. But he's probably just going to be constantly on the streaming radar. So if he's got 2 starts in a week and he's got good matchups, I'll probably say go out and stream him.
All right. Oh, we're over the hour mark already. It's flown by. Okay, we're gonna have to go a little rapid fire here. Alberto just wants some thoughts on this trade. Kettle Marte plus Machado for Gunnar Henderson. Which side do you prefer there?
Ooh, I mean, I would rather. Oh, okay. Wait, you're saying it's a 5-player keeper league? Okay, if it's a keeper league, I'm gonna take Gunner, like, for sure. Yeah, I know Kettle has been great, and Machado, up and down. Keeper league, give me Gunner.
All right, back to back, Nate. Are you concerned about Pablo Lopez going forward this season? He's been mediocre. He did just have a nice start against the White Sox, but got lit up by the Astros. Are you still feeling good about him, or are you starting to get nervous?
Still holding out hope. I'll buy low on Pablo. I think he'll be fine. So maybe he won't have the type of season he did last year, but I still think he's going to be a frontline starter for fantasy.
All right, Victor wants to know: would you trade away Randy Rosarena and Ben Rice for James Wood and Brooks Lee?
Not a keeper league, just redraft.
I guess so.
Oh man, if it's just a redraft league, no keeper, no dynasty, whew, that's tough. I want to say, as exciting as Wood and Lee are, I want to say I'd probably prefer Rosarena and Rice. But of course, this all just depends. If you stick Rice at catcher, is this an upgrade for you? That's a huge bonus. Man, this is close. This is really close. My gut, maybe this is just me being risk averse and going with a more veteran or Rosarena, thinking he'll have a good second half. I kind of lean toward the first side.
All right. Thank you for that, Victor. All right. Brandon Bridgewater, welcome. He traded Bryson Stott for Hunter Green in a head-to-head points leagues. How do you feel about that?
I like it. Give me Hunter Green. Been great. Couple of blips, week or two ago. His puke game didn't turn out too well. So other than that, he's been really good. I love Hunter Green, so I would definitely like to have him.
All right, Raphael wants to know, what are your thoughts on Spencer Schwellenbach?
I think he's finally putting it together. Not to say we won't have any more bumps on the road for him, but I think, I'm still keeping the faith in Schwellenbach, and I think he's worth adding in most 12-team leagues.
All right, and then Breezy wants to know, who are the two to three buy low players that he can overpay on, with Freddie Peralta, Yamamoto, Michael King, Scherzer, and/or Eovaldi. He's one out of the playoffs, so he wants to overpay 2 to 3 buy low players. I know the buy low is going to drop on Wednesday. You probably haven't put a lot of thought into it just yet.
Well, if you're giving me a list of these players, which ones would I rather overpay with? Is that the question?
Well, no. Who are some buy low players that you'd be willing to overpay on with these guys?
Like, you're trading away these guys to get somebody. Who would I want to get?
Yeah. So, like, even if maybe like it feels like you're trading away too much, maybe just give him some 2 to 3 buy low players that he could get with these guys. Maybe that's easier.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume, since you're listing all these pitchers, maybe we're looking for offensive help because you have a surplus of pitchers, or we'll just do a bunch. I mean, I don't know. I can repeat some of the same players you talk about at the beginning with Albies. I think, look, if you're patient, you could try to get Tatis if somebody's willing to move him. I'm going to talk about Matt Olson. I'm not totally convinced Matt Olson's going to put together an amazing second half, but I know the upside's there. I know the power's there. So maybe the break does him some good. You'd be amazed how drastically some players can turn things around. Olson would be a guy you could possibly buy low on. I still think Adolis Garcia is worth buying low. Some people are just straight up panicked about him. I think he'll be okay. So some players like that. if you want pitchers, I mean, you already have a bunch of pitchers, so. Yeah, I think just mainly those players we've already talked about. I don't know anybody else that jumps to mind, but I will say also, this might be a time that you want to try getting ahead of some players who are coming back from injury, like some of those players we already talked about too. I think Blake Snell was a great buy low also.
All right, and apparently Snell had a great start. All right, Cameron wants to know, here's the starting roster: Moreno, Josh Naylor, Altuve, Kim, Happ, Rooker, Winker, Carroll, Horowitz. How would you improve this starting roster? Who would you trade away?
I really want to upgrade a catcher. Moreno hasn't done it. I don't know he's going to do it for fantasy, so try to do something to upgrade a catcher. Possibly. Naylor is solid. Keep him there. Altuve, fine. Kim, okay. Yeah, I want to move Winker. I would say try to upgrade a catcher somehow. Try to sell Winker if possible. And you can try to sell Carroll right now based on his name value he's still got. That's what stands out to me.
All right, there we go. We were all caught up. We actually went a little long today, but that's okay because we are heading into the All-Star break, so there's no baseball for almost a week here, so we'll make up for it by going a little longer. And, of course, we want to get to your questions. Appreciate everybody being on. Don't forget, if you haven't tried it yet, Underdog Fantasy, there's still time. You can take advantage of this Gunnar Henderson Home Run Derby special. He just needs to hit one home run on Derby, and you win. Not only that, if you join Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code ENDGAME when you do join, not only are you going to get this special pick, they're going to give you another special pick that you can use as well, plus up to $250 in bonus cash. That's going to be deposited into your account right away that you can use immediately. You don't have to wait on it. You don't have to hit a certain threshold before you get that money. You get it right away. I think we got one more real quick. Clay Matthews, former incredible player for the Green Bay Packers. Maybe not. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. What's up, Clay? Anyways, he's got O'Neal Cruz at shortstop, Ketel Marte at second base. What do you do with Xander Bogaerts in this situation? Well, I already know what you do with Xander Bogaerts because I know what you did do with Xander Bogaerts. But if you got these guys, what are you doing with Bogaerts?
I think you can try to trade Bogaerts based on name value. Maybe people are forgetting how bad he was before he got hurt. Or if you're counting on him, you might be able to fetch more for Cruz. The Cruz really hasn't been amazing for fantasy. If you can get more for Cruz, I don't mind sticking Bogaerts in there shortstop if I can get a much better player in return for Cruz. I think that's okay too.
All right, there you go. Thank you so much, Clay. All right, we really do have to go because we are about to go do an underdog draft. Speaking of underdog, we're about to do an underdog draft on the Fantasy Football channel right now. So if you're into that, come join us there. Don't forget, we will not be here this Wednesday because there's nothing going on. Just the All-Star game. There's nothing really to talk about, but we'll still be dropping videos tomorrow. Pierre has a special video coming out that you're not going to want to miss. Of course, we'll still do Beat the Breakout on Tuesday because, hey, this is the time after the All-Star break. We're going to see some of these prospects get called up. I got one stashed. I'm hoping he gets the call. Hopefully he's on your video. I'm hoping he's on the video. Buy low on Wednesday. And, of course, waiver wire will drop Friday just in time for the games to pick back up. But we will be back here next Sunday to wrap up, I guess, the short week, maybe what happened in the All-Star game, and get you ready for the week ahead. So, appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate everybody being on here and chatting it up with us. We will see you back here on Sunday.